Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Hope you're doing well, guys. If you could give me a sound check, please, that would be great. Good morning, James. Good to see you, buddy. All good. Good. Glad to hear it. Alrighty, well, yesterday was, I don't really know how to explain yesterday in reflection. It wasn't very, I mean, the initial market breakout was exceptionally poor. It was pretty bad for the US markets. We did, however, get a couple of successes in the FX space, and we got a couple of, I suppose you would say, missed opportunities. I really hate saying missed opportunities. Not necessarily missed opportunities, but things that didn't trigger. We obviously had the really nice breakout in gold. I mean, it was incredible, absolutely incredible. How it got up to 2570 odd was exceptionally impressive. Has been in a really nice range for a while, so obviously there's a lot of money that's been building up in there, as we know. But yeah, it really did go for it yesterday. That was, yeah, it was good to see. Good to see, interesting to see. Unfortunate that we weren't in there ourselves. So I was just talking in the room a moment ago about euro against the yen. We came from a stone's throw within TP. We hit down to this area here at around 155.75, which is about 6 pips away. Looking at the 0.001s, 0.6 pips away from our TP. It did come back up here as well. Had a really big bounce, almost a break even at 156.25, which, as it happens, is about six. Sorry, not six. Sorry, about eight pips. I think 7.5 pips away from break even. Now it's starting to come down again. I still like this one to the downside. I don't really see there being any major risk. I mean, this is the very nice big inflection point here. We had this really nice breaker structure. Did come pretty close to stop loss in this point, but we're still ongoing, and I'm still quite confident in this one to the downside. I don't think there's any reason for anyone to consider jumping ship on this one just yet. Just to cover the things that have been completed so I can get them cleared off the chart. Aussie CAD, this is a similar trade, guys, to be honest, that we've done so many times before now. We did it again yesterday, and this one triggered yesterday afternoon about 3:30, maybe 3:15, something like that. And yeah, it came straight up, hit TP without any kind of price action pullback whatsoever as soon as the structure was broken, so that's really nice. And now, of course, we're kind of in this overnight Asian stage of grinding and consolidation, coming back down. Surprisingly, we are coming back down as far as we have been. I would have assumed, looking at where the Aussie CADs come from in the bigger picture, that we would actually be sort of finding support here, as I guess you would say. We've got a nice breakout. Retest, unfortunately, at this stage is failing. So we've got this really nice area of daily liquidity here. We can all see this nice and clear. Yeah, price sat down top of big liquidity here at the moment, as we can all see. It may, to be honest with you, it may be going for a fake out. It could well do. We could be going for a fake out and sort of coming right the way back down to 90.20, but I'm just a bit undecided on that bias at the moment. We've got another, this area in here is a big area of liquidity. So on this day, the daily's such a beautiful way to look at the markets, to be honest. It clears up so much noise. We see these really nice big inflection points. Look at all these really big inflection points here. And this area here is such a great breaker structure area for a trade straight from the daily chart, frankly. If we go back down to our 15-minute time frame, this is going to be a trade setup without a shadow of a doubt. So ultimately what we're looking for here is a breaker structure underneath this area. And then we'll be looking to clear the margin through down until our entry of the trade yesterday. Now the trade idea today will be smaller in size, but ultimately no lesser in terms of risk. Well, maybe a little bit less in risk reward. So entry there, target profit, stop loss going to be possibly around this area, maybe 1 to 2. Yeah, maybe 1 to 2.3. I mean, yesterday's was 1 to 2.46. It's actually really good. So that's going to be a pending order for today, but we're not to leave this open during the weekend. So if it is running, until this evening, then beware. Just going to have a quick flash over at the... Is that thing updated yet? No. That's so weird. Yesterday's news not coming up yet. It's very strange. Anyway, yeah, so that's that. Today, yeah, as far as I can tell anyway, on my dodgy calendar here, it doesn't look like there's much to be too concerned about. When we did our review at the beginning of the week, I don't think there was anyway, so that's fine. So, short Aussie CAD. I'm going to switch over that one to a red. We're going to remove this, and we'll get ready for that. So, in terms of the UK Brent trade idea, unfortunately, there goes me puppies. We're going to be looking at, we were looking at the push into liquidity yesterday, and then this sort of multi-break of structure point up to that 72.80 area. I mean, unfortunately we missed that, and this was actually a really nice trade idea, but we do have the option now of actually shorting this. It's going to be a bit of a peculiar one because the TRF is such a strong one in this chart that I would not even be calling this a TRF, and that's actually why I would be looking to enter the trade. So the pending order, I've already removed mine, but if you do still have well, actually, no, you wouldn't have had one, would you? Yeah, pending long, so you guys wouldn't have even had one, I don't think, or hopefully you haven't, because the market didn't come down to this area. To be fair, I was a bit wild with mine, because as soon as we broke down here, I was plugging mine in, but I already got rid of that pretty quickly. So what we're going to do is have an entry here, 72.43. Bearing in mind, guys, it is Friday today, okay? So this is all, we have to be on the ball today. Simply put, we do have to be on the ball. So that's going to be the pending order. That can be locked into the market right now and left alone. Again, if it's running until late and we're still not seeing any sort of, good momentum to the downside, you need to remove it before the weekend. It's as simple as that. So that one's going to change now to a short. Gold. And I really don't want to have a day of selling into everything, but frankly, that is what the market's showing at the moment. So gold, we formed a high of 25.71. Incredible move yesterday. Really, really impressed. Beautiful range. Really nice positive imbalance. It's just so much institutional liquidity flow here. It's really easy to see and quite fascinating at the same time. But we now need to think about what's next. I mean, is gold just going to continue to, trading high? Well, definitely not for me. So we've got this area in here, which is the current structural point. Okay, we've got this low, and we've got this area of consolidation before we get the breakout. However, we do have this one, and then we do have that one there. So it's sort of a multi-stage of areas. Now, the major price action pullback to a point has been the one that we've seen so far. It is on par with the one that we had down here, except we're not going to obviously wait for the market to drop that far to get into it, because obviously, there's the point where we want to be looking at the retest. So what I'm going to suggest is actually using this as a target profit rather than obviously a very, very late entry, and closing the margin between this breaker structure and that structural point. Even though I expect gold to come back down and retest daily liquidity at 25.35, I'm still going to go for this one because it's just a bit higher probability. So for example, that. So then today, for our gold trade, we're going to be looking at clearing out lows down here. Third short of the day, locked in, pending order. And we're going to be looking at around there. And that's going to be that 1 to 2.4. that we're always kind of trying to strive for. But that one looks really nice. Okay, so that's pending order again, locked in. Right, so that's UK Brent, that's gold, that's Aussie CAD. Fridays, to be honest, I don't generally like dishing out a bunch of ideas on Friday, so I'm probably am gonna call off at this stage. I think 3 trades for a Friday's good enough, especially when we've got the US markets coming up as well. We'll have a scan of these, but I'm not going to be dishing out the fund ideas today because I'm just not. So CAD yen yesterday, not bad. We had a sort of level of interest here. This was the CAD yen was to be on the watch list, to get a feel. The alarm was set yesterday at the red level, so this is where your alarms would have been. My alarm did trigger at this area here, and I kind of just sat with it for a minute and watched, and then it started sort of coming back up. So put this same exact alarm in again, and then ended up putting in a pending order as it was coming down. So this is sort of at the end of the day here, about, sort of call it a 6-ish. Decided to jump in for a pending order there because it was a really good trading margin, and I thought, you know what, for the sake of the 0.25, I'll just see what happens. And sure enough, we came down. My alarm triggered on my phone. Didn't even pay any attention. It continued going, and then ended up at about midnight or 11 o'clock or something, actually triggering and heading down there. So that wasn't a bad return either, because recently have actually incurred some losses on the CAD yen. But it is a good trading instrument, and it has had some really nice wild moves, and it's nice to finally get a win on the board with it. It's at a really nice area now as well, where it's trading away from. Obviously, this is the big inflection point on the 15-minute time frame, and it is bouncing away from there. We are underneath a structural point. If this was a Monday or a Tuesday, I would without a doubt be setting you guys up with a trade idea to here, but that is not me saying go and trade it. I'm not trading it. This is a reflection session, or it was supposed to be. And so therefore, we're just reflecting on its performance over the week, and it did yield that trade idea yesterday. And actually, if we're really fair with it, it yielded some really nice moves earlier in the week as well, which unfortunately we didn't capitalize on. But this area down here is looking very good, and what I hope is that we can kind of remain situated in here for a while, because it will prove to be quite profitable in the coming week. So Euro was long. Obviously, that got nowhere near yesterday. Well, actually, I say nowhere near. It did, in fact, get pretty close. But we didn't get up there, and we actually had a really nice sell-off back down to this low. And I was a little bit gutted about that. Yeah, I was a little bit gutted about that, because we had this sort of bottom half, we had the upper half, and I was looking at trading the long or the short from up here. But for whatever reason, and I can't remember what it was, I actually looked at the stream, watched back the stream, and I still couldn't understand why I was against shorting from there down to there at that point in time. But for whatever reason, I didn't like it. And it turned out to be a really decent trade. We had a break of structure. This area in here, look, really nice little structural point for the breakout, and that just would have been a fantastic trade. But I wasn't feeling it for whatever reason. I think it was probably because I automatically saw it was on the bottom half. Yeah, or a few Aussie positions lined up. Yeah, there was something about that, James. You're absolutely right, buddy, because we were looking at the Aussie CAD and then the Aussie dollar or something like that at the same time, and the Aussie yen was looking good and stuff, and it did get all a little bit much. But I can't remember if the euro was grouped into that or not. But yeah, I think probably my mentality yesterday was that I didn't want to short from halfway in the range. I think that's what it was. But my confusion lies because I was happy going long from the middle of the range. And maybe that, going long from the middle of the range, was because we were traveling away from the big liquidity down here. So, that would make sense. So the only logical thing, just knowing myself, is probably because I didn't want to short from the middle of the range when we hadn't actually come from this area of liquidity yet. But, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, nice move yesterday. It's come back down. It's actually performed a really nice move today as well, coming back up here at the moment. Next week, I think this is going to be a real contender for us. It's been a little bit of a rocky road. We've had several wins, but we've had more losses. So the euro was actually is probably running at about a break even at the moment in terms of its return over the course of the, you know, let's say the last 4 weeks or something. But next week, I'm really hoping for this one to pick up steam, and yeah, I think it's going to be good. We've got some decent margins in here, and I don't really want to remove them yet. I think they're still going to work well for us, but I am going to remove that. That's gone. Euro yen, we've already done that one. We know where we are. It's running. Euro NZD. So Euro NZD has actually been really, really nice. Very nice big range. Ranging in volatile market state structure. We do like this stuff. So at this moment in time, again, had this been on a Monday or a Tuesday, I would have, without a shadow of a doubt, be lining you guys up with some more ideas for this one. As it is, you know, as it is a Friday, I'm not really feeling it. But this area in here for a break of structure, and then ultimately looking to take the market back up to the previous high, 15-minute inflection point there. I mean, this is a nice trade. You know, that's a really nice trade. But yeah, you know, I am just not feeling it. And also, we're short the euro against the yen. I don't want to be short the euro against the yen when it's running and then long the euro NZD on a Friday. It's just not going to happen. But really nice range. Next week, this is going to be a major contender. Looking for that one to continue trading with the range. Hopefully next week we'll get a couple more waves. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty much where this breaker structure is, isn't it? You know, it's like right in there. Yeah. So you want to, that's what I'm talking about. It's breaking through this, clearing it out, and then trading upwards up to that previous high there for a 1 to 2.3 or whatever it is. But not today. Not today. We're going to sit that one out and wait for it. Euro USD short calls. Obviously, I got that call right. It was an absolute trading god with the euro dollar. Called a short, and it rallied a ridiculous amount. We actually went from the point where I said it was short up to the high of around 0.77% northwards, which is, yeah, great. Really good. We've actually recently had a breakout and retest as well, which is good. And, yeah, I mean, it's not looking bad, actually. At this point in time, Euro USD is not looking bad. We've got to clear this way through, and then... yeah, well, it's got some work. It's got some work to do. It's got a little bit of work to do. But I mean, if we go to this disgusting NFP high, I mean, that's a decent trading margin right there. And that NFP high is not randomly placed. We locked and loaded up there because of the fact that there was liquidity there in the first place up here. So that, for a trading margin, is very, very healthy. So we could potentially look at that Euro USD for next week as well to put into our order books on for example, when? Monday, Tuesday, something like that. Luke, can you hear me now? Oh, good man. Okay, brilliant. Okay, nice one, mate. Well done. Well done. So yeah, that's euro dollar. So anyway, potential shorts. Again, this was similar to the CAD yen. There wasn't any explicit trade idea at the stage of being live. It was a put in the watch list and make a decision when it hits. And obviously, yeah, I got that call spot on. So looking at the rest, I think it's definitely worth giving a shout out to the pound CAD. These sweeping swing lows and highs are absolutely fantastic. This recent rally from 176.92 up to 178.50 is just insane. I mean, for those out there, I mean, I know I don't really have any in this trading community anymore, but for the old school pip hunters that used to be obsessed with counting the pips, they would have been having a field day with that one. 162 in the space of a day, 0.92% up. Really big rally. I think where we're trading now, let's just clear this chart down. It's looking a little bit scrappy. So look at where we are trading right now. Yeah, so we're up at some big daily money up here. This is a big daily cash rich area. Hey, good morning, Michael. So yeah, big daily cash rich area up here at the moment. Prime time for either a breakout or a breakdown. Excuse me, guys. Sucking down my coffee. So yeah, really nice sort of prime time opportunity, I think, which is definitely going to be locked and loaded for next week. I'm actually at this stage, we're only halfway through the FX space. I tell you, next week, guys, I am looking forward to getting on it. I really am. Yeah, definitely, yeah. Next week is looking really good at this stage. Lots of interesting bits and pieces. Yep, definitely. So that's that. So pound Swiss. Yeah, still not really a fan. I don't think this is friendly on the 15-minute chart. And no, I'm not talking about that, where we had the massive chain liquidation event at the beginning of August. But like, this does not seem 15-minute friendly, if I'm honest. I would like, if we look at an hour chart, for example. You just go up a time frame just to clear up some of that volatility. It's a little bit sweeter. Now, there's nothing wrong with any singular time frame, by the way. You trade however you want to trade. I just like the 15-minute because I like being in and out of the market that fast. But, you know, if you want to go up a time frame, exactly the same method to trade, and you go from there. But yeah, the 1 hour time frame for the pound Swiss does do it a little bit more justice, I believe, rather than looking at this 15-minute time frame. The latest wave was okay, so like in this area here, but we had such aggressive pullbacks. The impulsive corrective formation here was really quite aggressive, you know, with taking a breakout trade and then it coming right down here to 111.12 and then right straight the way back up to 111.75. You know, it's just a bit all over the place. So I'm still not really liking that one. Still not feeling it. Right. Okay. So pound yen. Not a superb bit of performance overnight from the Asia session. That's not really surprising, but let's be honest, really nice little breaker structure this morning, and we have a TRF situated about there, but apart from that, the target profit and the entry point for this were very nicely done. So we have a breakout of structure. We've actually had a retest of that structural point with the continuation to the downside as well. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the price action pullback. Now, I know, Luke, you're relatively new to here and you're new to this method of trading. In an instance like this, you'll hear me say this as well, the more you watch the live sessions and stuff. I actually don't like candlesticks like this, because of the nature of the break of structure point. So the anchor point, the only available entry, there is no A entry, there is only a C entry. And the C entry is the breakout below this point. Because that is the beginning, it's the end of one candle, it's the beginning of the other. Right? So if we want to be getting in aggressively or conservatively, it makes no difference. The only option to enter is here. Now, obviously, the problem for entering in on this area here, well, this is why I'm saying it, mate. This is why I'm saying it. This is why the live sessions like this are really handy. So the issue we have now, of course, is we have this point, which is our TRF, right? Has been for a while, but not forever, James. But this point here is our TRF. So I hope you guys can see that. We've got a pretty decent inflection point actually from this, but also if we just zoom right in, we've got this area, and this is really interesting because we actually have a rebound, the break of structure, and the retest, then the break of structure and the continuation. So this area, which is situated in here, is actually really, really helpful for us in determining, what it could possibly look like on the return journey. So whatever's going on in there. So what I would be like is, okay, do I have the trading margin to be able to work a trade between 184.40 and 183.96? Well, I would say yes. That's a pretty tight margin on the pound yen, but you're still going to get a decent little trade out of it. So then I would be looking at where my path of least resistance lies, which will be through here. So then my entry point's going to be there. Target profit's going to be there at around 183.98. The stop loss is going to be at the 50% point between these two zones. That's not really ideal, so I might scrape a little bit more down and get to around a 1.84, and that would be my trade. But you can see that I've been quite forgiving with the margin there. I could easily put that there and put that there, the 50% point, and have a 1 to 1.9. But I like giving a little bit of room underneath those zones, just to make sure, absolutely sure, that the market's going to go for it. So a little bit of margin below the end, below the zone for the entry. Bring that stop down just a touch and have that as a 1 to 1.8. Because the reason I've got the zone that wide is because of this area. But if I look at just this area, right, for the breaker structure, because that is clearing that low at the end of the day, then this fundamentally changes the dynamic of the trade. And I'm looking at a 1 to 2.3, which, if you're maybe perhaps a little bit more new, or you haven't got as much chart time experience, you're going to choose the 1 to 2.26. But the problem with this is it's not going to give the margin to clear out the points of interest and those little intricate parts. So you want to be really, really meticulous, in your study of what's happened in the past, just to make sure you're getting the sort of the best probability, the highest probability setup, which ultimately is going to be back down there for that 1 to 1.8. And that's going to be that'll be the pound yen. So cable. Again, these pound pairs have had a really good time this week, haven't they? Well, I say this week. They haven't actually had a good time this week at all, but they had a really good Thursday. At this stage, however, I don't know if I'm seeing that right. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, that's looking quite nice, isn't it? Let's check that median. I'm actually going to do a little bit more of a deeper dive on this technically. So we're going to have another one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slim that right up. I'm going to bring that down. Place that bang in the middle. And we'll have a look at this, see what's going on. Got to make sure you get this stuff right because you're putting money on the line, right? I think this could be a bit better, to be honest. How are we going to do it? Maybe to there. But then what does that look like for the top side? Because then it doesn't match the beginning of the moves, but then it matches these two. Let's get rid of that. Do another copy and paste to see what happens. Okay, let's check this one out. Yeah, I mean, that does have a lot of pinpoint accuracy now, actually, doesn't it? For the most part. Especially on this latest wave as well. Yeah, it's a difficult one, that one. I guess in this particular instance, we're cutting off the NFP high, which I don't really care about. And we're cutting off this low down here, which I possibly do care about, but not against the fact that we've got established. I mean, it's a minimum of 2 touches on the top and the bottom, right? We've got these really nice 2 on the bottom. We've got these really nice 2 on the top. So if we zoom in here for a moment, based on this here, it's not perfect. Definitely not perfect. But I think it's usable. So possibly looking at trend continuation with cable. Maybe looking at breaker structure opportunity below this point to take a trade down to maybe the top of the median of the trend. So we're currently trading high up into the upper limit at the moment. Maybe let's see if we can get the price action back down to the top of the median. Yeah, go from there. I'll leave that, and we will revisit that one next week. NZD CAD. Again, this one's actually been really good. It's shown some fantastic trading volumes, but I definitely need to clear this chart up. It looks awful. So we got cash-rich area above. So we got this area in here. I'm going to have to change the color of my damn thing now. Let's go back. Thank you. So, yeah, we got a cash-rich area here. At the moment, we're kind of dwindling below it. But I still want to see that push up into liquidity. From that point on, we could then possibly look at a short back down to this area, which is actually quite a nice little point of interest here. All right, see that? Drag it right the way back. Quite a decent little inflection point in the middle there. So once we get going, come up to liquidity, reject liquidity, then come back down, and we will be looking at taking the short. And it will look something like this. That's exactly what I'd be looking for. The breakout, up top, comes back down, TP, trigger, trade, trigger, trade, trigger, trade. I mean, this one, my God, it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 successful trades just in this section of time. So that's what I'd be looking at again. So possibly looking for the push up, rejection, come back down. That'd be a trade for next week as well. My God, next week is looking very busy at the moment. I'm liking it. NZD Swiss again. Yeah, not too bad as well. We'll just move on. NZD JPY. Actually, not too much of a fan of that one at the moment. No, not hugely. NZD USD. Not hugely. I actually see a little bit more cable in this one. So, possible flag. Daily flag, 15-minute trend. I want those lows to be more on point. I mean, that's not too bad. Yeah, we'll run with that. We'll see what that's like. So, yeah. And I'm going to practice that same process again. Right bang in the middle. And you guys can manipulate this. It doesn't need to necessarily be a certain width or anything like that. You can manipulate it to kind of where is best. Because the medians of these trends, they're not always going to be the same. They just need to be of even width, like an even side. You know, they need to be the same on top as they are on the bottom. That's the key. So, for example, the median on this, I would probably have situated about there. So then it means the upper and lower limits are very, very minimal. And we have a lot of trading space going on in the middle. But as we study this, I mean, well, you can see for yourselves. And that's where we are at the moment, right? So this is actually looking really nice. This is actually significantly nicer than the cable one. We may go for a breakout of it. It may have come to the end of its term. Obviously, I don't think personally that this is too old. It's still quite young. Still has time for maturity. If we look at the daily chart here for a moment, you'll actually see we're not very far into this at all. We could see this for a significant amount of time. It could be going back down to the previous lows here. I mean, if we look again and just scrunch these charts up a little bit, we have a whopping great range in the NZD USD at the moment. Absolutely whopping great range. Frankly, I mean, we've kind of turned here at this point. This, for me, isn't significant enough. So I would have assumed that we were traveling much higher than that and coming up to this point, which is the major inflection point. Alternatively, I would have thought that we would have rejected here at these highs. But in fact, we've just come up to make this random new one. It's been utilized in the past, some. It's not completely irrelevant, definitely not by any means. But it's not greatly significant. So we could be looking at a breakout of this one for that pushback up and then coming up to these highs here. But whilst we are still within the margins of this area, I think it would be good practice to use it. So we can potentially look at taking a trade here upon a breakout underneath and back into the upper half of the median. And once we get down to the actual median line here, the median of the middle of the trend, we can take profits and go from there. Another potential for next week. USD CAD. Oh, now I'm going back to bed. Rank. USD China. Very unfortunate. We took a loss on this one, but as it happens, the call was correct. This would be a winning trade now, unfortunately. But it's just the nature of the game. Really incredible swing highs and lows on this one. Really, really lovely stuff. So ultimately heading back down to this area here. Wait for this area to be achieved, and then we can consider going long or short, depending on what the breaker structure or the break, close, and retest tells us. So that's, again, another really good contender for next week. My God. Starting to be a bit worried. USD Yen. I mean, it's actually not looking too bad now. This USD Yen has been seriously hard work for me. Yeah, it has. It's been really, really hard work for me. But I think finally breaking through this area, hopefully we're going to see some more clear kind of trending price action and not so much of this sort of choppiness and inconsistent ranging. So that might be okay. Yeah. Right, okay. Onto the stocks then. Final leg of the run. European session breakout this morning obviously was okay for some, not for others. I didn't trade this morning. I just didn't feel the need necessarily to be involved this morning. Going to hold out for the US Open this afternoon. The actual session breakout for the EU 50 and the UK FTSE was, in my humble opinion, absolutely shite. The DAX probably did have the best breakout. The breakout for me would have been, or the trades would have been situated between around 18,607 and the high of 18,654. This is based on previous price action. It's pretty clear, I think, where that breaker structure should have been and so on and so forth. If we go down to a 1 minute chart here, this is the trade that I'm explicitly talking about. Very, very little trade, over and done within the space of 5 minutes, would have yielded a nice 1-to-2 risk-reward ratio. You do have the option of shorting it back up from those highs as well. Just in review here, of course, I didn't actually take any trades in this asset this morning, but it did win in terms of the trading volume for the European Open. But that's about it. I mean, it's died a death, pretty quickly after. So looking at the NAS 100 then and the US 30 Dow, I mean, ultimately, guys, I am going to be ultimately, I am going to be providing the trade ideas this afternoon. They will be in the actual signal format, so you can stay tuned for those this afternoon. But just to have a little look at the moment, the NAS 100. Let's go up to the 50-minute time frame here, ranging at liquidity. Very, very interesting. Price action usually does this when it wants to break out, not break down. So we're building up money, okay, and orders, lots of money filling into the market and building up below this area. Right now is a battle between the bulls and the bears to decide which way it's going to go. But generally speaking, if I see this kind of price action underneath a point of liquidity, it's usually followed up with a really nice breakout. The other thing as well to take note of here, which is really, really interesting, is the fact that we are genuinely forming a series of higher lows all the way into liquidity. So this is the point of liquidity, obviously, all the money in top, and we're forming a series of high lows all the way into it. It just really feels like we're gonna go for another breakout later on today, or maybe even before the US Open, who knows. The trading margin to take it to is really nice and clear for us as well. Looking at this point here, we've got lots and lots of major inflection points up at around 1960, so we will be looking at sort of bridging the gap between the two. Breaker structure point's going to be about there, and you know, your possible trade is going to look something like this. But again, guys, I will be providing some actual trading options this afternoon for you all at around that 2 o'clock mark, or maybe 2:15, something like that. Something like that, yeah. And then even so, I mean, if you get a breaker structure down here, you can short the damn thing as well. That's a possibility as well. I mean, this is no joke, though. Look at the size of this move. It's incredible. It really is. You know, from the Wednesday low, from the CPI initial, you know, sort of bust and boom that we had to the end of the week, Wednesday to the high of today, it's risen almost 5.1% in the space of a couple of days. I mean, that is really seriously pushing some, you know, so very, very interesting stuff. If it goes today, we're looking at a 6% week, at minimum 6% week. So yeah, very, very interesting, to be honest. US tech stocks absolutely destroying it. The US Open itself, though, was pretty crap. I will say that. We did have a decent trade in there, one, but apart from that, it was pretty crap. The US 30 Dow Jones yesterday, we did have this sort of explosive breakout to the downside. We had a fake out here, this failed TP. We came up, there was just no trading for hours until about 5:45 in the evening, and I'd already packed up by that point in time. It was a bit of a washout, to be honest. Looking at where it's trading at the moment, we're obviously trading between these 2 points of interest here. Unlike the NAS 100, the Dow Jones is doing the exact same thing the NAS is, but it's doing it on top of liquidity, which is really odd, isn't it? We've got the NAS doing the exact same thing underneath liquidity, and the US 30 Dow Jones is on top of liquidity. So yeah, it's a real touchy place to be, I'm telling you. But we're looking at breaks of structure anyway for the entry to this one. We will be looking long today to 41.30, and we'll be looking short. Shorts are going to be difficult. I would wait until this afternoon until you hear what I have to say then. We'll see where the land lays at 2 o'clock. Because right now, I don't see any short capacity. No shorting capacity at all. And that's that, guys. That is that. We're actually at 20 past 10. So, yep. Lots of work done. Lots of analysis. Lots of stuff to get your teeth stuck into. Tons of opportunities for next week. I think next week's going to be a busy one. I think we can all safely say, even if you have had a good week, it's been a bit of a rocky show. Certainly, it feels less smooth running than it has done in the previous weeks. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting today done, no matter what happens, and pushing on to next week and seeing what we can pull out of the markets this afternoon as well. So, guys, I will officially wrap things up there. I hope you have a fantastic Friday, a beautiful weekend with your families. And, yeah, I look forward to catching up with you this afternoon, obviously, for the US Open. and ultimately see you on Monday for the action to start all over again. So take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you then. Cheers. Bye-bye.